Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here with another Sunday session, and today's episode is a very, very special one. It is episode 200. That's right, folks. I've been doing this for way too long, but enjoying it every single time. Not only giving you valuable content and feedback, but getting to meet some fantastic people along the way. And today is one of those topics where most people like to fall asleep, but today I'm going to give you the best inside tips that you're going to get in order to minimize your tax as a property developer through the tax depreciation process, which is something that most of us would be familiar with as investors. But did you know there's huge opportunities to actually do that as a property developer? So in order to help you, I have the expert of the day, with Mr. Theo Mavratzakis. I hope I got that right, mate.
Sure did, Rob.
From Tax Depreciation Australia. My neighbour Greeks were going to be quite proud of me, mate. So thank you.
Yasu. Well done, Rob.
Yes,
well done,
indeed, mate. Firstly, welcome aboard, episode 200. I'm pumped to have you here. So I guess from our pre-chat, I know that you're pumped to be here too. So, mate, tax depreciation puts most people to sleep, but it is, I guess, a secret weapon from a cash flow perspective. As I touched on before, most people are very familiar as property investors, long-term buy and hold, but little do they know about the inputs and the secrets for property developers' perspective. So, mate, firstly, who is Theo? Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and that sort of thing, and who is Tax Depreciation Australia?
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. And Rob, congratulations to you. 200 episodes. Really, really well done. I'm so lucky to be on this lovely episode as well. So I'm ready for a bit of fun. I love depreciation reports. I really do. And like you said, Rob, it's the Greek in me, finding tax deductions for people. So Rob, who am I? I've been in the industry now for over 15 and a half, 16 years, completing literally thousands of depreciation reports for property investors all over Australia. Tax Depreciation Australia, we want to just ultimately help people. We've got offices all over Australia. And again, we love what we do, which is what the fundamentally is in our name, Tax Depreciation Report. So obviously today's session is to go through what depreciation is, how it works, and the benefits, like you said, to developers.
Well, let's start at the very, very beginning. And we might just cover some basic ground where everybody else is already maybe familiar-ish, but we're going to dive deep into the details of it and how a normal traditional investor would do it. And then we can do the twist that is going to help the property developer along the way. So firstly, mate, what is a tax depreciation schedule? Let's just start with the definition right at the start.
Definitely. It's where the magic happens, Rob. Ultimately, that's where it is. So for any property investor in the market, they're ultimately able to claim the wear and tear of that building back as a tax deduction. Our role as quantity surveyors is to ultimately pinpoint every possible claim that's in any type of investment property. We're looking at everything from all the Division 40 elements, all the Division 43 elements, everything that makes up that property that we can identify, we can claim for clients.
Well, mate, I'm going to go straight into nerd alert. You're talking about Division 40 and Division 43
yes.
and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure that's making my accountant wet his whistle pretty hard.
Definitely.
But what is a Division 40? We'll
yes.
dive into some of the things that are in there, and then we'll dive into the next one straight after that. What is Division 40?
Of course. I know you do, Rob. I just get too excited. Again, I just love depreciation reports way too much. So as I mentioned, there are those elements. So Division 40, as you know already, Rob, is that it's claiming the wear and tear of all the mechanical and removable items that make up a property. So we're talking about the things like the lights, where you might have a down light that's connected into a power cord. You can take that light out. That's a plant and equipment item. The blinds are a plant and equipment item because you can ultimately take them out of what's fixed into that building. The carpets, you can rip the carpets out. So those Division 40 elements that make up a property are all the mechanical and removable items.
So things like your pool pumps, your air conditioners, any motors that you've got, anything like that are all plant and equipment.
Bingo, that's right. And things like the automatic garage doors, the spa bath, the jets in the spa bath, They're tax deductions. You know how you go through a screen door, you see a little door closer above the door? They're tax deductions as well. So anything that we can find, we will claim for a
There's 10
client.
cents right there.
Claim everything. No, $2 with us, $2, please.
Yeah. So, and I guess more specifically, they're the sort of things that have a lot more wear and tear.
Yes.
And so because of that, they're more likely to be replaced more often. And so I guess is the depreciation schedule on those a little faster than other the other things like the Division 43s that we're going to cover?
Exactly right. So the Division 40, again, those mechanical or removable assets, they do depreciate quicker. So their effective lives obviously are a lot quicker than what a structure of a building is, which we'll talk about a bit later on as well. So each plant and equipment has its own effective life. So as you can appreciate, a smoke detector will depreciate different to what carpets do or what that pool pump does or any of those other plants and equipment items. So our role as quantity surveyor is to make sure that whatever cost we get for those plants and equipment items, we're depreciating that each of the right cost or effective lives for those items.
Very good. And then Division 43, so that's building allowances.
Yes. This is, again, it's the Greek in me again, the Div 43, the construction cost of a building. They're things like your bricks, your mortar, your concrete, retaining wall, fencing, the wiring, the plumbing, all of those items that are fixed into a building that you can't rip out. We love Division 43 because there's a significant amount of claim eligible for a client through the Division 43 element or claim. You know, if you look at a kitchen, for example, you might have a kitchen where you've got an oven, cooktop, range hood. Yes, Division 40, plant and equipment items. But the overhead cabinetry, the island benchtop, the walls, the floors, the splashback, that's Div 43. It's real structure claim. And that element depreciates at 2.5% over a full 40-year window. So it's one claim each year over 40 years.
So one claim a year over 43. So you touched on some of the things, but anything that is, I guess, structurally part of the building. So the bricks, the mortar, the concrete, the retaining walls, the wiring, the plumbing, all of those sorts of things, all the things that you just can't go and physically unplug. Now, I'm going to ask you a curly one maybe, because you touched on before a downlight you can actually unplug, right?
Yes.
And that's right for the new ones.
Yes.
But what about the old ones? Because the old ones used to be hardwired in. So how does that work?
Good question. Really good question, Rob. I like these ones. You're keeping me on my toes. So ultimately, it depends on the build date. We know when those fixed lights were installed. So those fixed downlights that are hardwired in, they will come under the Division 43 part of depreciation. But the newer builds, the ones where they are plugged into a core, they're your Division 40. And that's the benefit of using a qualified quantity surveyor like us at Tax Depreciation Australia. Our job is to make sure that we're claiming the right items in the right rates and maximising every claim.
Yeah. And so, and we didn't really talk to the intention of a tax depreciation schedule, but basically we're going to give this to our accountant, and the accountant is going to deem this to be a cost to our investment. And I guess we're going to talk to property development in a sec, but a cost to our investment, but it's a paper-based loss. We haven't actually physically realized that loss today. At some point in the future, when we replace the item is when the loss is realized. But we're actually able to claim that down as we go from a cash flow perspective, making the money that we actually earn have less tax, and hence your level of excitement, Theo.
That's exactly right. That's right. So, and that's why, and again, that's why I love doing what I do, because there are so many investors that I still speak to that still don't understand the grasp of what a depreciation report is. And I feel like they're just, ultimately they are missing out on literally thousands of dollars of claims. So you're right. It's a paper cash deduction that people can claim over a set 40-year period.
Yeah. And look, in my experience, I have not come across an instance yet where the cost of the actual report has not paid itself off in year one. So for anyone out there wanting to if you've got an investment property and you're not doing a depreciation schedule, then straight away let's get that solved, because you're leaving money on the table. Now, now that we know what Division 40 is, and now that we know what Division 43 is, and we know we've got all these things that are slowly, let's just say, decaying.
Yes.
How do we actually start to measure this? So my understanding is that there are two different ways that we can actually depreciate these, and one is a straight line method and one is a diminishing value method. What is the pros and cons of each of these? Why do they exist? And how do we get the most bang for buck?
Good question. And ultimately, a lot of these things that we're discussing today, it's always good to consult an accountant. Every person's financial position is different. It truly, truly is. And that's why I love what I do. I get to see all these amazing properties, do all these amazing reports, and just see high claims, low claims, what can be claimed, what's high. It's ultimately back to an accountant which method they want to use. And if you hit the nail on the head, there are two methods of depreciation you can claim in any investment property. The first one, as you mentioned, was the diminishing value. That's the one that I like. And the reason why I like it is you're claiming a higher amount of depreciation in those first number of years and then plateaus down to whatever the last construction rate is or what the total zero balance of build. Now, the reason why you're claiming a higher portion through that diminishing value method is because there are a couple of ways of accelerating the depreciation. Any item that goes less than $1,000 in the first year can be depreciated at a quicker rate. So it's 37.5% in the first year, then 18.75 each sequential year after that. The other part is the $300 instant write-off. Any item that goes less than $300 can be instantly written off that year. If you use the other method, which you discussed, which is the prime cost method, it is one cost or one value each and every year. Which one you use or which one you want to claim will be totally up to the individual.
Well, I guess it depends on how long you're holding the asset. If you're going to hold it for a very, very long period of time, you might like the comfort level that you're going to get a tax deduction forever. If, however, you think, look, I'm only likely to hold on to this for 3 to 5 years or something like that, you might want to claim everything right up front. Now, let's just hypothetically, Theo, say that I've done that. Let's just say I'm a greedy bastard. I want to claim as much money as I can day one. So I'm gonna use that diminishing value, get the best return for me straight away. When I then on sell the property to somebody else, they're going to go get their own depreciation schedule. Do they have to use the sliding scale that I was using, or can they reset the clock? How does that work?
Good question. So once that property gets sold to another investor, they can nominate in their own scenario which way they'd like those depreciations to be claimed, what method they'd like to use. So if you're claiming the diminishing value because you're like a brother for me, what you say, greedy bastard, just claim everything now. Hey, everyone's different, but if you wanted to claim your diminishing value now, and then say in 5 years' time you sold it to a new investor, they can nominate which way they would like their depreciation claims to be made. So it's ultimately up to everyone. But, I know what I like, but again, everyone's scenario is completely different.
Understand. Again, educational in nature. This is not.
Please. I'm not an accountant. I'm a quantity surveyor.
Always, this is not advice, folks. You need to go speak to your accountant. I can assure you on that.
Yes.
Now, just on that diminishing scale, you mentioned two different thresholds. You mentioned $1,000 threshold and a $300 threshold. So I'm just going to hypothetically say I've got an item that today is worth $2,000.
Yes.
I'm going to use the diminishing return method. And so over the next couple of years, it's no longer worth 1,000, it's worth 1,900, and then it's worth 1,800, and etc.
Yes.
Once it gets to the 1,000, does it then accelerate? And then once it gets to 300, does it then get written off straight away?
Instantly written off, correct. So once it goes into a pooling schedule, so once it's below that $1,000 threshold, it will just remain in that pool. So you won't see the actual label of the item anymore. It just gets, as mentioned, into a pool, which is depreciating at that rate, that higher rate. The instant write-off for that $300 instant occurs in the very opening value, the very first time that you open up your depreciation report. So it's just a couple of ways that we can accelerate the claims for clients.
Yeah, and of course, that is a point in time. That's the condition of the property today. But then if you go and upgrade an item or replace some items or things like that, then you get to reset the clock for that item. So if you go and replace the carpet, for example, then you can start again on that process.
Exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yes.
Now, do you need to go back and get a new report when that's the case, or you just give the receipt for the carpet to the accountant and he just slots it into his magic formula?
Yeah, good question, Rob. And again, one of those scenarios there is if there's any type of cosmetic works that get carried out at the property, you put in new carpet, you put in a new hot water service, or say new blinds, you can give those costings directly to an accountant and they can place into their own depreciation report. The only time you would ever really engage with us again, based on that current investment property, if there's been a form of extension or renovation made. If a builder's been engaged and they've said, okay, we're doing this work, it's going to cost you 100 grand, and we're going to include all of this plants and equipment item, Division 40, and all the Division 43 construction costs. Our role would be to ultimately go through that $100,000 bill and apportion out what we can to accelerated claims in those plants and equipment items, and then the residual being that Division 43. That's what we do as a business. We will go and pin or pluck everything we can to get as much money back in a client's pocket today.
Very good. So, okay, in order to do one of these depreciation reports, mate, I guess there's two different ways to actually do this. There's a brand spanking new home and there's one approach there. And then there's going into a second-hand home that's been in existence for a while. In most instances, I guess from a property developer perspective, we're picking up second-hand homes. We're then knocking them down and then we're turning them into brand new homes. So hence there's some
I'm excited, Rob.
Some magic that might be about to happen here. So let's just talk about the process in how do you assess a second-hand home, and then the process about how you assess a brand new home. So what do? You just turn up with a pen and paper and start writing things down?
We send a pigeon. We send a pigeon there, Rob. No, what we ultimately do is we'll arrive at any type of old investment property, because the whole idea of what we do is to quantify. That's why we're quantity surveyors. So we'll go out to any type of investment property and pinpoint what we can claim for the client. So we'll measure up things like all the floor areas, which will give us a total area of the entire site. We'll determine how much of it's carpet, how much of it's vinyl. We'll go through and look at the pergola. We'll go look at the down the side there. There might be some paving that's down there. We'll measure up every element we can. We'll again quantify how many lights are in that building, what kind of materials the property's made out of. Is there tiles on the roof? Is it on stumps? So after that detailed inspection has occurred, we can then prepare that really detailed 40-year report, allowing that client to claim absolutely everything that we assess at the property. But you did mention, what about the new one? When it's built, what do we need to do an inspection at those ones? And the answer is no. Quantity surveyors can actually work off plans, inclusions, and a contract price. So as a developer, you engage with the builder, they build the property, they go, here's your price, here's your plans. We can work off those items, put a value next to each and every one based on that contract to prepare that full depreciation report. Those floor plans are down to the mill. So a quantity surveyor can measure off a plan. And we find them being a lot more accurate as well, because as you can appreciate, when you're measuring a bedroom, there might be an element of the built-in wardrobe that may be just missed or hidden behind a door. Working off plans is one of the best methods in making sure we maximize everything in a build.
Yeah. And for those who aren't aware, that I guess the whole quantities of air, the whole terminology comes from the bill of quantities, where you actually measure how many nails, how much timber, how much
bricks,
concrete, Yeah, yeah. You keep bringing it back to bricks, mate. That's the Greek in you. Is it the bricks of the concrete?
I need a hanky on my head, Rob. I need a hanky on my head.
Oh, mate, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not even going to go there. That's. I'm glad you went there, but then
Yes,
that's not
correct.
me.
No, it's all good, Rob. It's all good.
Okay, so we know, I guess how you go out there. So you mentioned before previously, and you kind of mentioned in passing, that appreciation schedule is actually done over a 40-year period.
Yes.
And so if the building is, I guess, greater than 40 years old, then there might not be as much to depreciate because a large chunk of it. But does that mean to never do that? Is there completely nothing that we can claim if it's an older property?
Perfect, Rob. Perfect. And you've opened that door, allowed me to jump in. Thank you very much. Even if the property is pre-1987, now Division 43, that's construction cost claim we keep talking about, that's for any property that's been built in September 1987 and onwards. So any residential investment property built after that date automatically qualifies for the construction cost claim. So say a building cost you 100 grand to build at 2.5%. That's minimum of 2.5 grand every year for the remaining time of that build. So any property after 87 automatically qualifies. If it's been built prior to 87, one of those 1960s, your Yaz house with the pink bath, I don't know if you've seen one of them before, but those real old buildings. If there's been some form of renovation or update to that property, they might have put a pergola in there or tidied up a kitchen or a bathroom. We as quantity surveyors can assess that, place a cost on that Division 43 component, and still allow the owner to claim. So no matter how old that property is, if we can find claim for the client, we will tell them and we will do it. We've got a guarantee in place with our business where if we can't double our fee worth of deductions in the first full financial year, there is no charge for our service. Hey, Rob, I've never handed out a free report. That's how good we are at tax depreciation. Claim everything. Claim everything.
Well, legitimately, folks.
Of course. If we get too aggressive, I'll put Daniel Ferrucci's name. That's my business partner. No, it's all above board. And that's why we love what we do. Maximize it by remaining ATO compliant.
Yep, very good. Okay, so similarly, if it's, say, 30 years old and there's only 10 years left to depreciate, I'm assuming that we can only claim that 10 years, but can we do the accelerated method of the remaining 10 years?
Good question. I think you're opening the door up for me. I'm very excited. So the scenario is this. It's a 30-year-old build and someone's engaged to get a depreciation report today. They are entitled to the last 10 years of original structure claim in that property. However, throughout that 30-year period, even though the new owner might not know about who owned the property or what actually happened, we, again, as quantity surveyors, can extract out any renovation that were done. There might have been a pool installed, or again, a pergola, or an updated to a lounge room, whatever it might be. We can extract that, claim the residual 10 years, and claim that for the client. So there's still going to be a significant amount of claim.
Somebody's filled in that sunken lounge from way back in the 70s or some sort of upgrade like that. Okay, gone.
How's it? Is it still that it could be claimed? If there's been a renovation to it, we could be claiming something, Rob. We could be claiming something.
Absolutely. Okay. So, I think we've pretty much covered, I guess, a normal traditional investor,
Yes.
I guess, looking after a property. Now, the secret sauce. As a property developer, how do we start to tap into some of this? Because these long-term investors are getting a pretty sweet ride. What is it that we can do to actually improve our position? So there's a couple of stages that we go through from a property development perspective. I'm anticipating from how this conversation is about to go that there's different things we can do at each of the different stages. So yes. Stage one, we pick up a raw site. We have a brand spanking new secondhand home. And so brand new secondhand, they're the best kind.
We love those ones.
So we're going to have to go through a development approval process. We're going to be holding on to this asset for a little while.
Yes.
Depending upon the jurisdiction that we're in, we might be able to fast track that, or we may have a very slow council. And for those of you in certain parts of the country, You'll know exactly where you are, where your councils are. I'm not going to go naming and shaming, but there are some councils that are extraordinarily slow that take 12 months, 2 years sometimes to get development approvals across the line. So during this process, I'm anticipating we don't want to knock the house down day one. We probably want to generate some rent as we go. So should we be doing a depreciation schedule right up front?
Bingo. Yes, Rob. Yes. And just to add in, we love developers. We really do. And the reason why we love developers is you're building a cornerstone of what Australia is today. You're creating properties for people to ultimately live in. So well done to each and every developer out there. We truly do love what you do. But like you said, Rob, we want to help. That's our true motto of assisting where we can by remaining ATO compliant. So you've got that old property, that beautiful, what is it, brand new secondhand property, that secondhand build. While that DA is being placed through each council and you are renting it out, you can claim the depreciation on that build throughout those periods, throughout that year, 2 years, or as long as it's a rental. So each year, so as soon as you bought the site, rent it out, engage with us. We will do a full comprehensive 40-year projection report that will go to the accountant each year while you're getting that DA through. So yes, it is critical to get a depreciation report at that first onset of buying that development site.
And picking up on your words a little bit earlier, it's a free report unless we can double our money. So I'm anticipating that so long as we're renting it for more than 6 months, we've covered the cost of the report at minimum. And we're going to show you how you can get the at minimum. We're going to start to crank the handle on that one in a second, folks. So we've now got our development approval in place, and I'm going to go back a step.
Yes.
I guess because we know our intention is to not hold it for the balance of the 40 years, we're not more likely to renovate it with a bulldozer. I'm assuming that the sliding scale method is not going to give us our best bang for buck in this particular instance, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Again, consult your account, but you've hit the nail on the head. Obviously, you're going to have it for a small period of time. So you want to be using that diminishing value method to claim as much as you can each of those periods or those months or those years you've got it prior to the demolition. But I can't wait, Rob. I can't wait till you start talking about that big bulldozer wanting to go through. Please, I am just so excited. I'm going to lose it over here, Rob.
That's my favorite kind of renovation, my friend, is with a bulldozer. So
Yes.
when we knock that down,
Yes.
there is a thing that you do called a scrapping report.
Yes.
What is a scrapping report? Because it just sounds fun.
Rob, it is, for me, this brings me pure joy. It brings our whole team pure joy, a scrapping report. So what is a scrapping report, you ask? It's as easy as this. We tell any developer not to touch a hammer, a bulldozer, anything until they've engaged with us first. What we would do is this. Remember how we did that pre-depreciation report while that DA was going through? At that point, a bulldozer goes through it. Whatever the residual value of that report is, can be claimed at 100%.
100%,
Bang.
folks. 100%.
Bang.
Which, given, I guess, the cost of constructing the original home in the first place, and given, I guess, the potential for 10 plus years left of lifespan and that sort of thing, that's going to go a long way to just covering the cost of your demolition, folks.
Exactly right.
So don't misconstrue this as just a couple of bucks in your pocket. We're talking some significant cash that can actually come from this process.
That's right. Exactly right. And I've seen some big scale scrapping reports. I've got a wonderful developer contact that I work with regularly, and they're building relevant nursing homes around South Australia. They're identifying sites, renting them out for a period of time, bulldozing that entire site down to build those nursing homes. We're talking, not 10, 20, we're talking literally $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 worth of instant write-off claim. Scrapping is a fundamental thing, and we engage with developers that don't know about the principle, But ultimately, if you rent a property out for a period of time first, you want to bulldoze that property and rebuild and put 2 or 3 townhouses or 6 townhouses on there, you can claim the residual value of the old asset at 100%, which could, like you said before, equate to thousands.
So what happens if you don't rent it out, Theo? So if you just go straight to knocking it down because maybe you bought a DA approved site and the house is there and you want to knock it down straight away, can you still do the scrapping report? Does that still work?
Really good question. And unfortunately, we're talking general in nature. Again, it's a question to be having with the accountant because every scenario is different. But the principle is it's got to be an income producing property prior to the demolition. And then once the new asset has been built, you have to retain it for a period of time after. So consult with the accountant, timeframes. It's all about intention ultimately. But we're guided by the accountant. If they recommend getting one done, we will do it. But the principle is it can be done. We work with so many developers that are doing this, and they are ultimately saving themselves thousands of dollars in tax deduction as an instant write-off.
Very good. Okay. Now we've rented it, we've now demolished it, and we've scrapped it. Now we're going to be building some brand spanking new stock. So there's a couple of different ways to exit this stock. So exit way number one, we're going to sell that to someone else, quite likely an investor. Exit way number two, we're going to keep the stock ourselves. So how do we benefit from the tax depreciation schedule? Should we be selling it to someone else?
Good question. There are 2 scenarios, and you're able to actually do both scenarios with utilizing our services. How? If you retain that property, so the developer retains that property, guess what? The lights, the blinds, the carpet, the bricks, the mortar, the concrete, all of those Division 40, Division 43 claim in that brand new site can be claimed. And we're not talking 2, 3, 4, 5,000. We're looking at anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 in the first year. 40 to 50 grand over a 5-year period. So by retaining some of the stock, there's potentially able to claim thousands and thousands of dollars. The other option, as you mentioned, was if you were to sell it. If you're to sell a stock, we want to help the developer. So what we can do is this. We can provide free depreciation estimates for that site. All I need is floor plans, list of inclusions, and the contract of sale. Providing me with those 3 bits and pieces, I can prepare depreciation estimates that can go to the developer. That developer then can give it to a real estate agent who is marketing that property for sale. So when there is an investor that is looking at engaging to buy that particular site, they're not just working what their cash flow is, they can actually pinpoint and work out what it would be with the depreciation claim as well. So we can help facilitate selling that asset to people. Now, the benefit behind that is this, Rob. If you allow, or developers allow us to do this, we have half the information that we need on file in our system. If that investor does buy that property, we can complete the depreciation report at a reduced fee. So it's a win, not just for the developer who's selling it, not just for the real estate agent who's marketing it, but for the client to get a report at a reduced fee from us. We're like Christmas, tax depreciation Christmas, bringing cheer and joy to everyone.
So just a point of distinction, folks, the free estimate is kind of a one-pager that kind of gives, I guess, the estimated range of discounts that or depreciation that the investor would be able to get. It is not the full depreciation schedule.
Correct.
So there is the requirement to actually get the full schedule, which then goes line by line by line and actually says, hey, how many dishwashers and how, like, 5 kitchens or something. Like, could be lots of dishwashers, who knows. Or maybe it's, the dirty dishwasher and the clean dishwasher. Have you seen those, mate? Where I'm too lazy to stack the shelf. I'm just going to move it from one dishwasher to
the next one. Wow. Hey, I've seen a lot of things in my journey through this, Rob, and I can tell you, I've inspected a number of. I could write a book about some of the stuff I've seen on the road. I can tell you that much. But I love it. You know why, Rob? Because I'm fighting tax deductions. Double PowerPoints and double the cost in my eyes. I love it.
I want to know how. I've always wanted to build a home with a secret passageway and something like that. But I don't want to give away the fact that I've got it. How do you depreciate that?
You just tell me, and I'll just put it in there somehow. I'll just disclose it. It's just a Div 43 claim. There's a few lights. Anyone asks questions, I'll say, I've got some photos, but I can't show too many
Yeah,
people, so that's fine.
that's the dungeon.
Yeah, correct.
That's where we keep the wine cellar.
Correct. It's the wine cellar.
Okay, mate. So that kind of, I guess, wraps it up. And of course, if you're going to be keeping the stock for yourself, obviously you're going to get the full depreciation schedule yourself. That kind of helps out from that perspective. And that's all of that, I guess, we've been talking about has been predominantly in the residential space where I guess most of our, I guess, developers are actually working in. But it actually also works in the commercial space. So if you're actually got a commercial investment or if you're doing commercial developments or anything like that, what are the changes between the two from a depreciation schedule? Any difference at all, mate?
Good question. And ultimately, commercial properties are going to generate a lot more deductions potentially. The reason why is you're talking higher purchase price, large scale construction costs. So there's going to be a lot more claim there. One advantage there is of a commercial property, especially an existing one, you can actually claim the Division 40. Remember those plants and equipment items we discussed earlier through a commercial property. Residentially speaking, though, we are limited to what we can claim on an established building. So commercial properties that we love, we do. We've been doing farms, not dressed like this because I've made that mistake once. It was a bog fest out there, but I loved it because I was fighting pivots and dairy sheds and all sorts of wonderful things. But, you know, commercial properties is its own beast. We love doing it. Residential developments, we love doing. But yeah, existing residential properties, there has been some changes made to depreciation that has affected some of the claim in those scenarios too.
Yeah, so I've been in, I guess, a long-term investor since I bought my first investment property at 21. Would you believe? So I've been.
Congratulations. Was that 2 years ago? 3 years ago, Rob? Yeah.
Yeah, not long. So I've watched a few changes along the way. Now I know that there are two key dates, one that's important to you and one that's important to the rest of us. So what happened on the 7th of May in 2017, my friend?
Good question, Rob. On the 7th of May, 2015, my firstborn, little Michael. I've got three beautiful kids, Michael, Alexandra, Zoe. Alexandra's up for grabs. If anyone wants her, no, I love her dearly. She's like her father. But Michael was born on the 7th of May, 2017. And then obviously, like you said, 2 days later, on the 9th of May, 2017, at 7:30 p.m., it was budget night. And I love budget night, right? I sit down there and I had my little boy in my hands watching it. And Scott Morrison was treasurer at the time. And he made a couple of comments. The first one was, if you live in, say, Brisbane and you fly to Hamilton Island to go and fix your property, you are unable to claim those claims anymore. You can't claim travel costs anymore. And that was a big thing. The second thing he said was, if you own an existing property, you can't claim depreciation on the plant and equipment item. So I freaked out. I'm like, what does that mean? Have I still got a job? How does all this work? So in essence, the breakdown is this. If you acquire a second-hand property or turn your principal place into an income-producing property on the 9th of May 2000 from 7:30 p.m., you are now eligible to claim the plant and equipment item. But wait.
That's the Division 40.
Correct. That's right, the Division 40. But it's okay. It's okay. The reason why is the Division 43, the construction cost, you can still claim. So if it's a 20-year-old property and you buy it this year, yes, you can't claim the lights, blinds, carpets, bricks, and mortar. Oh, sorry, the lights, blinds, carpets, the plants and equipment, but you can claim the bricks, mortar, concrete. You can claim the construction. And there is still a high portion of depreciation that's eligible through that Division 43 component, the construction costs.
And I think you were saying a little earlier that depending upon the property, obviously, but somewhere in the vicinity of 80 to 85% of your depreciation is part of that Division 43.
Correct. It's based on that construction cost. That's right. And our job is to not just identify the building. When we do these formal assessments, you might have a freestanding shed out the back, which is a plant and equipment item. But if it's built up on, say, a concrete slab or there's some paving in there, that's Div 43. We'll measure that up and we'll claim it for the client. That's why we love what we do, making sure we can extract every deduction. If it's an existing property and you put in a plant and equipment item, you can still claim. It's all good. And again, commercial, any commercial property is unaffected, both old and new.
Yeah, so if you have refreshed that, so despite the date, if you've refreshed things like your carpet or your lighting or your dishwasher or things like that, then you will be able to claim those individual elements, but not everything that's in the Division 40.
Correct. Unless you have built a brand new property, brand new residential property. Guess what? Nothing has changed. You can claim everything. When you sell a developer stock within 6 months to an investor, they can claim everything, every light, every blind. We're talking again 10, 15 grand in the first year, 40 to 50 grand over 5 years. Rob, I love what I do. And the reason why I do it is there's no negative news. The only negative news I've got is I'm so sorry we couldn't find you any claim. But if there is some form of claim in there and we can find it for a client, I promise you this, we will extract it out for anyone. We love what we do. We do.
Mate, it is very clear that that you love what you do, Theo. So, mate, if you've enjoyed what Theo's got to say, we run these Sunday sessions almost every single Sunday. And as I touched on, today is episode number 200. So we're going to keep doing that for quite some time. We also have industry experts at our meetup events that we run all the way around the country. We run them physically in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide, and we live stream them all the way around the country. And Perth, we're soon coming for you. We are going to be there very, very soon. So if you've enjoyed Theo's presentation today and you would love to get more industry experts just like this, see real deals from people in our community sharing deals, then folks, we would love to see you at one of our upcoming events. So Theo, mate, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, bye for now.